Happy Monday, everybody. So happy you're woken up early or you're watching this throughout this day. Today is what's called Holy Monday. Now, why is it holy? What is special? What is good about this Monday? Well, in Mark 11, Jesus comes into Jerusalem, sees a fig tree, curses it. We'll get to that tomorrow. And then comes into the temple. Now, as he comes into the temple, he enters it and he begins to drive out those who sell and those who bought in the temple. Now, what's the issue here? And he overturns the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. What's the issue here? What's the problem? He would not allow anyone to carry out anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, "Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations? But you have made it a den of robbers." What is happening here? There's a system set up in the temple that blocks people from meeting God. Number one, there was an alternative currency. This is why there were money changers. They had set up a temple currency, like, points or, I don't know, some type of coins that were only available in the temple to buy the holy things for the temple. If you wanted to sacrifice, you had to first exchange money. And so people would lose money in order to get that special currency. That was the first thing. That was happening in the country. By the way, I stole that from my son. Don't tell him, please. And so the second thing that then happened is that you could only buy animals to be sacrificed within the temple. So you cannot come in with something you have brought. You had to buy the holy animals to be sacrificed. Now, this is exactly the problem with what Jesus makes so wild and so angry. And this is not meek and mild Jesus with a lamb, right? This is testosterone Jesus with a self-made whip in his hand, overturning the tables, being violent about it. Notice that it doesn't say that he was being violent against people physically, but he was violent against that system. Now, that system was keeping out two types of people, actually three. Number one, it was keeping out foreign people. This is why Jesus says, this is the house of prayer for all the nations. There was a pre-court that was designed for people of non-Jewish descent. So if they wanted to meet God, they could. Now, this was full of animals now. And secondly, it was keeping out people that were too poor to afford. It mentions the pigeons, the seats of those who sold pigeons. Now, pigeons were for those who could not afford a lamb. Now, if you exchange the currency and you lose money, you cannot even afford to sacrifice a pigeon, right? And so it was blocking out the poor, the foreign, and it was blocking out women and children, which were not allowed to be in the temple, because this now is full with the setup of a system that blocks out anybody who is too poor or is too foreign or is not a man, grown out male adult, right? Jesus gets mad at this. And he says, this should be a house of prayer. Now, he doesn't say this should be a house. He says, my house. He takes ownership over the temple because he sets him up not just as a liberator, as a revolutionary. He is the God that people should meet, right? And the temple should be the place of access. Now, this is what changed for me. Jesus kind of takes a step forward and says, this temple is corrupted. I'm going to set up a new temple, because with this action, he actually incentivized the authorities to do something against him. Because here it says, and the chief priests and the scribes heard it and were seeking a way to destroy him, for they feared him, because all the crowd was astonished at his teaching. At evening, they went out of the city. Jesus knew that with this action, he would actually have to pay a huge price. Now, what changed at Holy Monday for me personally? We tend to make a transactional system with God. If I sacrifice this, you will like me that way. If I can exchange this for that, then God will do this or that. Let me tell you, the way we access God is by grace, is through Jesus. Faith in him is the only access to God. There's no pigeon that you could sacrifice. There's nothing that you could give that would make God any richer or any, more in love with you. He gave his son. This is what I have to remind myself when I feel unworthy to meet God, or I feel like not qualified enough, or I feel like, you know what? Then I have to go back and think like Jesus was willing to get violent for me to access the temple, violent to access God. Church should be a place of prayer for every nation, all colors, all ages. Anyone should be welcome. Anyone is welcome. That has changed for me at Holy Monday. So happy Holy Monday. You can get access to God today. Nothing disqualifies you. The only thing you have to bring is, Lord, make access through Jesus for me. That's the only thing. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.